Plotting a course for the place we're not supposed to go in the part of the galaxy that's still off limits. It's Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific. It's Mission Log Live. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Rekha Sharma. Hello to you, our Star Trek pals, joining us here to talk about new Star Trek when it happens. This week, Picard, Episode 6, The Impossible Box. How will Picard react to being back on a Borg cube? How will Soji react to figuring out who she really is? How will you react to being more than halfway through this Picard story? Tell us. Click on the Zoom meeting link, or you can use the one tap from your smartphone, or you can call us at 669-900-6833 and enter the meeting code you see on the screen. You will talk to Earl, and then you'll talk to us, and then you can tell us how you feel about this week's episode. Whether you're joining us live or later, please do remember to hit like, share, and invite your friends to join us for lively question discussions every week. It's truly the best way to validate our very existence.
See, as an actor, you're told to make strong choices. Like you go into an audition and they say, make a new choice, and you're going to make a bold choice and you got to stick with it. That's what you just did. That's why you're a pro. Boom. Well done. So again, that number to call us tonight and to share your comments or questions on Picard, 669-900-6833, or use the one tap from your smartphone, or better yet, click the Zoom meeting link. I know I am so happy and proud and privileged that there are already like 4 people waiting, even from before we started, to join us on the show tonight. How cool is that?
It's like awesome.
Is this what it feels like to be one of the popular kids in school? Because I don't know that feeling.
You do now.
Aw.
It's such a good feeling.
It's great.
I have a cookie.
Such a good feeling. You just celebrate with a cookie. I love it. Hey, we're going to say hello to the chat room. Well, you enjoy your cookie, Rekha. We have so many people saying hello. There's Karen. There's Craig. Craig says, good evening, everyone. Hope you're all having a spectacular day, which I am. Thank you. Looking forward to another mission log. We have Zach. Zach, unfortunately, still working, so he won't be able to watch live, but he does have some comments about Data and Hugh and Jordy, just all kinds of stuff. We'll maybe get into that a little later. I'll copy and paste that into the notes. There's Robert, there's Peter, there's Pam, there's Craig, there's Tate, there's Dennis, and a lot of people already with very good questions about the episode, and just a lot of people saying hi. So there's Alan Perry saying, hi, everyone. Good evening, John, Rekha, and Earl. There's McKinney saying, hey, Trek family. That's what we are. Good to see you here. Yeah, there's Meredith. Meredith, #1 Mission Log Live fan. Thank you for joining us, Meredith.
Awesome.
There's Chuck. Yeah, there's Steve, Paul, so many people who are chiming in. It's awesome to see you all, and I can't wait to hear your comments on the show. Oh, and boom, checking in, Scott Palm right there joining us tonight. So thank you, everybody who is joining us right now and saying hello in the chat. I cannot wait to hear your comments on this episode. Before we do the recap, before we do all that fun stuff, just a quick reminder. So next week, episode 7 of Picard, Monday night, 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. And we've decided that after the run of Picard, so after these 10 episodes, there will be 2 wrap-up shows. Norman's going to come back in and join us. So we're going to do 2 wrap-up shows, have all of your calls, of course. But then on that second show, still with your calls, we have a special guest. We have Phil Plait, the bad astronomer. He will be our special guest to talk about Picard because that man is he is smart, he is scientific, and he is a Trekkie, and he has opinions. So he's going to join us for that show. So that will be awesome. Also, as I kind of teased last week, there are some convention plans coming up. So I hope that those of you who are local, or even if you're not, and you're planning to come in for the Nichelle Nichols Farewell Convention in May, cannot wait to see you all there. And then WonderCon, which is in Anaheim, April 10th, 11th, 12th. Hope to see you there too. Still working out details of exactly when we will be there doing what. But do join us. And everybody who's on the cruise right now, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, don't know if you're catching us live because Wi-Fi stinks on a cruise ship. No, but I imagine, you might get the download later. And I'm so jealous of everybody who's on that trip right now.
I know, right?
So cool. They're just having a blast. So, Rekha, before I get into the recap, let's do that poll thing that we do every week. I'll let you remind us what our poll question was for last week.
Sure thing. But before we go on, I want to just pipe in there and say that I will also be at the Nichelle Nichols farewell tour, or whatever it's called.
Right on.
So yeah, I'm excited to be there too.
Excellent. I'm so glad. All right. It'll be a blast. All right. Now it's a party.
Okay.
I mean, now.
Totes we go. Okay. So last week's poll was, which was more gory, Icheb's eye or Remek's head debris? It was close last week, and it's remained close. Icheb's eye is at 52%. Remek's head debris is at 48%.
Yeah, I mean, neck and neck, really.
Yeah.
You know, now this week, based on one of the props in tonight's episode, we had to ask a question about what is the most troublesome, slow-moving gas cloud in Star Trek? Now, naturally, we like to leave that open to interpretation. Troublesome might mean a different thing to different people, but I gave you the choice of Beverly's ghost, and I don't mean the ghost of Beverly, but, you know, her ghost companion. And then Narek's cube, which opens up and releases a slow-moving red radiation gas cloud thing. Beverly's ghost definitely leading with 73%, Narek's cube with 27%. Cannot disagree with any of you there. I think you made the right call on that. Even if I didn't want to pick sides, I would say yes, that Beverly's ghost is at least 73% more troublesome than Narek's cube thing.
I got to ask, I don't get it. Is this Beverly Crusher's ghost?
Yeah, well, so it's not the ghost of Beverly Crusher. There's an episode of TNG called Sub Rosa, which I would forgive you if you had wiped it from your memory, where they visit a Scottish theme park planet. I mean, it's not really a theme park, but let's face it, it's a theme park. And Beverly is there. She has the most disturbing line in all of Star Trek, which is, I was up late reading a very erotic entry in my grandmother's journal.
What?
See? So, first, all right. So who writes that? And then who says it?
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the ghost, it's very troublesome, and it has the form of a green cloud, and yeah. Well, yeah, that'll be a whole other thing.
I have to say, when I looked at the sentence, more troublesome, slow-moving gas cloud.
Yes.
You know what I was thinking of.
You want to share it with us?
What your big brother says to you, you know.
Yeah.
He's talking about gas clouds, threatening to sit on you and put a gas cloud on your head.
See, fortunately, I did not have an older brother. Oh, this is where I
have been gas clouded.
Wow, this sounds like the central trauma of your life that you're still dealing with now as an adult.
Yeah, man.
I'm sorry.
And which takes us back to the episode. There was a lot of trauma that these people were dealing with.
There was. Thank you, by the way, for sharing that a piece of yourself with our audience.
You're welcome.
All right. So speaking of the episode, that was a great attempt at a transition there. So thank you for the segue. I will now get into the recap of this week's episode, The Impossible Box. Here we go. Soji Asha is haunted by dreams about herself as a child. The details are fuzzy, but at least she's got a roguishly handsome Romulan there to help talk her down. He knows things he shouldn't, like how she calls her mother every night, and he keeps pushing for more details. Soji pushes back, asking Narek for his real name. You know, the naming of Romulans is a difficult matter. It isn't just one of your holiday games. You may think at first I'm as mad as a hatter when I tell you a Romulan must have 3 different names. Well, there's a name for the outsiders. There's the name for family, the true name that a Romulan would give to the person who has his heart. Narek is uneasy enough by all of this to get up and go. On La Sirena, Dr. Girardi is lying about what killed Bruce Maddox. She's clearly affected by this, but she's not forthcoming about the details. Picard plans now to go to the artifact to find Soji, the last link in Bruce's plan to find out the truth about the ban on synthetic life forms. Picard, for one, is not exactly looking forward to the trip. Remember, there's a history there. So, Jurati is feeling pretty emotionally compromised by this whole thing, and late one night she decides to ease that pain, at least temporarily, by having a roll in the quarters with Captain Rios. Speaking of sexual tension, our tousle-haired Romulan is visited by our statuesque Romulan, and they do more of the same. You're taking too long. No, you're not taking long enough. I'm in control. No, I'm in control. I mean about the mission. The mission to figure out Soji, where she's from, where the rest of them are from, all that stuff. Narek needs more time since he thinks the fact that Soji dreams is tied to her trying to reconcile her programming with the pretense that she's human. He's using a little cube puzzle toy to try to explain it all to Narissa, but she just wants results. With Picard and crew some 3 hours from the Borg cube, they don't actually have permission or credentials to be there. Enter Raffi, leaning on a connection at Starfleet to grudgingly arrange for diplomatic credentials for Picard for 24 hours. Raffi is impaired by all the stuff she's putting into her body and the emotional baggage she's spent. Her Starfleet connection says to never call again. After stumbling away, Rios calmly tucks her in. Raffi is haunted by the failure to connect with her son, and Rios can only tell her that we don't all get everything right. Over on the artifact, the more Narek has gotten into Soji's head, the more she is trying to put the pieces together for herself. Did you know that every night she talks to her mother for exactly 70 seconds before falling asleep? Weird, right? And all those family photos and keepsakes? Testing reveals that none of them are more than 3 years old. Very weird if you're human and totally not an android. Picard's welcome on the artifact is terrifying at first, but he sees that old familiar face of Hugh, comes to realize through Hugh's tour that the XBs are victims who need help and are recovering the best they can. Then, talk turns to Soji, who is escorted into a secret Romulan meditation chamber by Narek. He feels safe there, and even wants to reveal to her that his real name is Hai Yan. He then proceeds to walk her through a kind of guided meditation of her dream. There are no electric sheep. She's seeing images of her younger self at home, sneaking into her father's lab. She can't quite see him, but she's startled to see herself in pieces on his workbench. Above her, the image of 2 red moons and lightning, and as Narissa listens in secretly, this is the clue the Romulans needed about where precisely Daj and Soji were made. Her usefulness up, Narek leaves the room after depositing his little mystery box on the table. It opens to release a very slow-moving red cloud of radiation, which Soji, now activated, escapes by punching through the floor. Hot on the trail are Hugh and Picard, who manage to meet Soji in time to direct her away from the oncoming Romulan guards and into the Borg Queen's chamber. There, a new piece of tech awaits, a super powerful transporter that can get them far, far away. Picard calls La Sirena to tell Captain Rios to rendezvous with them on Nepenthe and hurry. Elnor has meanwhile defied Picard's orders to stay behind on the ship. He and Hugh will distract more oncoming guards long enough to let Picard and Soji escape. See you in a few light years. The end.
Voila.
Voila, indeed. So there we go. I mean, look, I got notes. You got notes. We all got notes. But we got callers. Should we just dive right in?
Hell yes.
All right, let's dive right in. So first up on the show, looks like we have Egan, who has been waiting patiently to join us. Egan, welcome to the show.
Oh, hello, John and Rekha. How are you guys doing this evening?
Good.
Doing excellent.
How are you?
Excellent. Doing great. Thank you for asking.
Great.
Oh, my goodness. I have so many things, but of course there's so many wonderful folks in the room there. I'll just go.
Cool.
You cut me
lay
off.
it on us. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, one, I just wanted to mention, thanks to, Earl, of course, but I don't know if you're aware, this evening it's actually the emergency Earl hologram, the EEH.
Oh, that's my favorite hologram.
Yeah.
That's great.
We're in the presence of a great hologram, so just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, EEH.
No.
Nice.
And I just quickly want to comment on the poll from last week. No, it's Remek's head. That scarred me as a teenager. It still scars me. It's the worst thing that's ever been on television ever. So Picard can't beat that. So
I mean, that was a pretty great effect for 1988 when that
something like that. Yeah, I was like 16 or 17 or something. I'm getting to be an older man at this point, and I still remember that.
That's pretty good. And by the way, there is I don't think we've ever actually revealed the story behind it, but there is a story, and that every time we say Remek's head debris, somebody owes us $100. So that's why we do it. That's why it will be an ongoing thing on Mission Log. So Fantastic. There you go.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, what I was really going to mention tonight was, and again, this is not like an amazing thing to think about tonight, but I just want to kind of mention that, I have like 3 classifications of TV shows that I watch. I have what I refer to very specifically as the folding close television shows, which means, I can watch it a little bit and be very distracted, quite literally folding clothes. And they're fun and they're entertaining, that kind of thing. There's the, I'm paying close attention, of course. And then there's the shows that have do not disturb on the phone, the lights in the house are in the right mode to make it feel like a movie, that kind of thing. And of course, Star Trek has always been that. But I wanted to create a new category, and that is with this week's episode of Picard, Egan on the edge of his seat most of the episode.
Awesome.
And near the end, as they're being chased through the Borg cube and swords are about to be drawn, I actually stood up from my couch and I approached the television. This was just something that just happened spontaneously. I didn't think about it. I was standing within just feet of my screen, just riveted. This show is terrific.
That's so cool to hear that it had that much of an impact on you. Tell us about the moments, man. Tell us about the moments that just that grabbed you.
It started really when Picard beams aboard and he is having these reliving moments of, Locutus, and he's kind of, putting his head down, doesn't want to be recognized. That's an incredible thing that you're experiencing with him, because we felt like, as Next Generation fans, we experienced it with him way back then. Then he's got that moment where it feels like he's going to fall, because the Borg don't believe in, hand railings or something. And those other XBs, help him out. And Hugh is there to kind of like jostle him back into reality, right? And then we're now under a time pressure. We're figuring out that I forgot Soji's sister's name now.
Daj.
Daj, thank you.
Yeah.
We're trying to get to Soji, actually. Daj died. We're trying to get to her, and the heartbeat moments are just starting to pulse, right? And the beat of the show is just increasing and increasing as we get to that inner sanctum where they sort of beam away. I just wanted to kind of give my reactions, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant.
I love it. There are so many good moments in this episode. I mean, I think like there are great action scenes, but I have to say, and I feel like other people will probably talk about this tonight. And I don't know, Rekha, if you would agree with me here, the two really like the heartwarming, beautiful character moments, just that hug between Picard and Hugh felt so genuine, so sweet. And then Picard's realization of what's happening there. This, the tragedy of what happened to these people who were assimilated as Borg, but then he says it, they're victims, they're not monsters. And seeing them be rehabilitated was so cool. And at the beginning of the episode, seeing current Picard matched with Locutus in that graphic takes you right back to what happened in Best of Both Worlds, takes you back to his freak out in First Contact, and how deep that trauma is. And to see that this new emotion wash over him, and his sympathy and concern for these other people was, I thought it was beautiful.
Agreed.
You mentioned Nemesis, right? In Nemesis, he actually uttered the line something like, you should shoot them. You'll be doing them a favor. Your fellow Starfleet officers if they become Borg.
Oh, in First Contact.
First Contact, yeah.
Yes.
He's come full circle in this episode too. They're not monsters; they're victims.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So good. Anything else? Any other thoughts or comments?
The last thing I'll say, just because you guys brought it up in last week's episode, and mostly I listened as a podcast, and I heard it a few days later. You guys were talking a lot about, or they mentioned a little bit that, the newer shows, Discovery, Picard have been a bit rougher, and kids not maybe being able to watch that kind of thing. I was definitely thinking through that as you guys mentioned that last week. What I wanted to mention is, if you kind of want to relive that feeling as a kid and do that, I don't know if you're aware of the spin-off show from The Big Bang Theory called Young Sheldon, which by the way, CBS All Access show. On Big Bang Theory, they talked a lot about Star Trek. Like, it came up a lot. Of course, in Young Sheldon, it comes up pretty frequently. And a couple of weeks ago, they had an episode where him and his dad actually bonded in a beautiful moment through Star Trek. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's just really cool. And it's a neat way, to kind of relive way back when and kind of put yourself in the mind of Sheldon, because he's getting to do what we did way back when we were kids.
Cool, man.
That is awesome. Hey, by the way, before we let you go, just have to mention, somebody in the chat says Egan rocking that young McCoy look. So, well done, man. Well done.
Well, thank you to whoever
all right.
that was.
Do you have a Starfleet uniform?
No, I don't. Because we were actually talking in the green room about things we have ordered through Anovos and things like that, and I've been waiting for a particular jacket for like 5 years.
No,
one of these days I will have it and I will wear it for you.
Awesome.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Good. All right. Egan, a pleasure as always.
Yeah,
thank you, John. Thank you, Rekha. Have a great evening.
I'm so glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It just nice to see some comments here. I do want to mention one thing. Aaron, what's up, Aaron? Said something about the radiation. They do call it radiation at some point, which is just very weird because it's this slow-moving gas cloud. I mean, a very slow-moving gas cloud. But I get it. We're building dramatic tension. But it's like it's radiation. Sure. So. But thank you everybody for the comments continuing to come in. Rekha, should we go to our next caller?
Absolutely.
Okay, it looks like we got Jonathan, who has been standing by, and Jonathan, who got the memo and is wearing a Starfleet uniform jacket.
This ironically is an Anovos jacket as well. So
it is Anovos.
It is.
Oh, so you got Egan's.
I think I'm probably waiting for the Beyond jacket. We're waiting for the same one as well. So cheers.
Nice.
Cute.
Good evening.
Very cool.
Good evening. Great to see you both. Rekha, John, great to be here. Long-time listener, second-time caller. So thanks for having me here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I just wanted to call in because I was watching the last episode, which I loved, by the way. I think it's probably the best episode I've seen since the series premiere. I was watching it with subtitles, and I don't know if this has been mentioned anywhere before. I suspect it must have been somewhere, but I noticed that in watching with the subtitles, at 52 minutes and 25 seconds in, there is a subtitle of a line attributed to Picard. Now, just to put this into context, this is after Eleanor has decided that he is going to stay behind and basically make sure that their getaway through the Sicarian portal is going to be fine. And Picard realizes that he's staying behind and he's arguing with him. And right when he's like, no, you guys are going to go through, the subtitles have Picard saying a line saying, "I'll find you again." But the line is never actually spoken. So it's actually a cutaway shot where we see Soji's reaction to what's going on, and on the screen the subtitles Picard saying, "I'll find you again," but since we never hear the line, the explanations that I could think of were that either it was recorded and removed after the subtitles were typed up, at the behest of the director, or it was in the script at some point, and that's what was used to make the subtitles, and it was never actually recorded. But either way, I think it's really interesting that they had a line like that where basically it's Picard expressing that he's not just abandoning Elmore, that he really does want to, hang on to him and find a way to find him. But there was at some point a conscious decision to remove that line at some level.
Right, because right before that, he says to him that he doesn't want to lose him again or something. And he says that's music to his ears or whatever, right?
Right. Yeah, it makes sense.
So then this, yeah. So this line would have come directly after that.
I believe that's correct. I'd have to rewatch it again, but I'm pretty sure it was right before they stepped through.
Right.
And so it's an interesting trend because between their removing this line, which would make Picard a little bit more, I feel like more of a sympathetic, more of an empathetic character. There was him basically ignoring the fact earlier in the episode that Raffi had done this service to him and was still suffering from quite an addiction. And as she's limping away, he just kind of well, job well done. And just kind of turns back to what he was doing. I almost feel like the producers are setting up Picard to be a far more self-involved character. And I'm wondering if that's going to pay off in some sort of redemption arc, if not this season, perhaps next season. But it's a very interesting contrast, I think, from some of the earlier, personality traits that we know of Picard being much more noble and, caring of others. And this seemed a little callous to me. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on why they might be doing this, or if maybe I'm just reading too much into this.
Rekha, you want to take that?
Yeah, I don't think you are because, I had that same response too in that scene when Raffi gets the thing. I was like, and he's just happy and smiling and it's a little out to lunch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, that second line, I feel like that could have been a situation where they want to keep the pacing up because it is an action scene. And so let's just get rid of it because I think we got the point when he says the previous line. It's enough was conveyed. And yes, it's an extra thing and it's a beautiful extra thing, but I think the point was made with just that two line. Those
interesting. Okay.
Being exchanged. In my experience from being on the other side of it, that's what I would guess it was about. Okay, but we still got to move the action forward because it's exciting.
Sure, right? Sure.
But I don't know. Maybe there is that in there, and certainly there's lots of choices that are made in post. I think that shape the characters. Absolutely. I hope he, is redeemed from that, is learning. I think he is. I think his character is learning.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's the excitement's been building up in terms of, I think the action's definitely been picking up in the last two episodes. And so I'm hoping that they're not just moving the story along, but they're also moving the character along as well. Mm-hmm. It's been a very interesting trip seeing this. Well, I don't want to say this version of Picard because it's still the same Picard. I guess this era of Picard. It's an interesting contrast, and it's been also interesting showing it to my kids as well. My kids who are 6 and 8, I show them Discovery, I show them Picard, I just make sure I watch it at first. I can be like, kids, cover your eyes. So it's interesting, kind of showing them how the characters can change over time. Seeing how things go. So. It's been fun.
It's interesting, and we talked about this a little bit in Mission Log, how Picard grows and changes for better or for worse over time. And, the Picard that we get in First Contact, who is full of anger about the Borg, is different from the Picard that we had before. And I'm glad that even in this, you're sort of acknowledging that without being super explicit about it. You get the idea that he is hurt. We don't have to in detail go through the thing about, hey, remember how he picked up a Tommy gun and screamed and, did my Scarface impression? You don't have to get through all of that, but at least it acknowledges that the character is at different emotional states at different times in his life, And something that you just said is really interesting to me about him sort of, I mean, for lack of a better word, like using and then abandoning people as long as he needs them. And we had that introduction with Raffi. And certainly he had in Next Gen this friendship and camaraderie with people in the crew, but only some. And now that they're out of his life, they're sort of not there at all. Now we know that we're being reintroduced to Riker and Troy in this series, but it's not everybody. It's not this, huge family reunion. And I kind of wonder, is it just the reality of how people come and go out of others' lives? Or is there something to be said here about Picard's actual emotional attachments? We saw that reference when he's coming back to see Elnor. We see that reference to him being awful with kids. He hates kids, doesn't want them around, doesn't want them on the bridge. But he has this bond with this little boy, Elnor. And clearly he's very different toward him than he was when we first met him, Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. It's like they're acknowledging these little, I wouldn't even necessarily call them flaws, but these sort of realities of his personality and maybe how the job affects his personality. But then
there's also like, there's a reference to that in the scene where Raffi is talking to the Starfleet person.
Yes. There is a parallel to that.
There's the same theme there. And I kind of think, well, yeah, not all relationships are that deep. And there are people that you just kind of call when you need something and it's more of a working relationship or whatever. But we're human. And so different people have different feelings about it. Maybe one party really wants a friendship, but the other party is like, I think you're great, but
yeah,
I'm not feeling like a deeper level of friendship or whatever. It's like dating, right? Like,
right.
Are we going to go steady or not? Is this going to go, are we going to get serious or is it going to be cash?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Makes people uneasy.
I wouldn't know anything about this. Okay.
Oh.
So
I think he knows a lot.
You'll have to explain this to me sometime. Yeah.
I think you're an expert. We'll get into that another time.
All right. Hey, Jonathan, any other comments or thoughts or questions tonight?
Just one last thing I wanted to say before I left. John, this is kind of a bit of a callback, but to your review, your synopsis of Children of Mars, I'm going to invite you to go back and rewatch it with a close eye on, I think her name was Lil, the redhead, on her face throughout the episode, because I actually took a different message away from that short trek.
Oh.
Your synopsis had her as an aggressor. And I think in rewatching it that she actually didn't realize what she had done. And everything she did subsequently in that episode was trying to make things better. And it just went horribly wrong. So I think if you watch it again, you might find that maybe she just didn't realize what she had done. And even the drawing of the teacher, I think that was her attempt to kind of be like, sorry, I didn't realize, and to make her feel better, but it got caught by the teacher and all went horribly wrong. But maybe not. I recommend rewatching it, and we can talk about it in Vegas.
That's very interesting. I thought the initial moment was accidental, but then that kicked off this thing where it kicked off this rivalry. That is very interesting. I will go back and watch it. Thank you.
All right, we'll discuss in a few months. Cheers.
We'll see you in Vegas, if not before. All right.
Great to see all of you again. Cheers. Thanks so much.
You too.
Thank you. Take care, Jonathan.
Have a good evening.
You too.
All right. So, hey, next up, it looks like Rhea is ready to go here on Mission Log Live. Welcome to the show, Rhea.
Good evening. Good to see you all.
Hi.
Hey, likewise. Good to see you. What is up?
Well, a lot of stuff. This was a great episode. I kind of watched it Egan style, except in my ultimate Pac-led wisdom, I watched it at the gym on the treadmill. And so by the end,
amazing.
Yeah. I about.
Did you run extra, like normal, more than normal?
Well, luckily I didn't run that long. So by then I was on the massage bed, but I wasn't getting this water jet massage thing. It's pretty awesome.
Oh my God.
Needless to say, I wasn't like getting very relaxed. I mean, I was like holding it like this and sitting up and screaming at my phone. But yeah, that was an exciting episode.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, I think, and kind of off of what Jonathan was just saying with Picard, I kind of thought this episode was a turning point for his character. We'd seen plenty of examples how, okay, he was this great Starfleet captain. Now he's retired, maybe a little full of himself, maybe has isolated himself from a lot of his, former friends. But I think there was some redemption in this episode. First of all, seeing Hugh was the first person that was actually happy to see him, aside from Dodge, I guess. But that was kind of nice. Oh, shoot. There were like 2 or 3 other things. Now I can't remember. But so anyway, I think it's kind of a turning point there. Although I definitely agree with kind of what everyone's saying about the interaction with Raffi. She basically sold out what appeared to have been a close friendship at one time. This friend says, don't ever call me again. You could see Raffi's face. She was devastated. And there's a polite golf clap. That was a little harsh. But
Yeah. That's such a tough moment because she's drunk. She's got the snake weed or whatever. And then she finishes that moment, which is really hard all around. Like you said, everybody claps. And then, as somebody pointed out, I believe it was actually Elijah from Priority One, and then they swell the music with the Star Trek theme. Like this was...
I gotta say, the music throughout that whole scene was a very interesting and curious choice because it was like very light and fun.
Yeah.
While she's doing, there was enough difficulty emotionally in that scene that I thought it just didn't resonate for me. It didn't quite line up. It stood out. It was like, this doesn't feel right,
Yeah.
Even if you notice the soundtrack, it's like it should just almost be like not even noticeable,
Right.
It just fits perfectly with the moment and you don't even kind of notice it. But to me, it was jarring, and I thought, what is the intention here of this scene? What are we doing?
Well, I think between the music and the applause, I kind of appreciated the juxtaposition a little bit. I was married to an alcoholic for years, and this is someone that makes Raffi look like a casual drinker. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how deep you want me to get here because I could get pretty deep. But someone in Raffi's position, what she said jokingly to her friend, "Oh, I still plan to drink myself to death." No, in all seriousness, she does plan to drink herself to death, and she will continue to do what she's doing until she finds some reason that she wants to change. But I can still picture that look on her face when her friend said, "Don't ever call again." And like the guilt and the shame, that alcoholics go through, or addicts of any sort. And they're in front of, your whole crew and your old friend and everything. Everyone knows that you're hammered, you're high. Rios was there to escort her to bed. And actually, I've seen people say, "Oh, at least Rios took the bottle away." And again, no one can stop an alcoholic from drinking. They're going to find a way no matter what. And my first thought when he took that bottle, first of all, he took it for himself. Yeah. But second, just knowing from personal experience, she's going to be pretty gosh darn unhappy in the morning when she doesn't have that bottle to wash down her hangover. So, thanks a lot, Rios. But I'm sure they have some 24th century, I don't know, hangover help.
Coffee in the replicators.
Yeah, they had that too.
Yeah.
But I had those same thoughts.
I don't know what to do with the choices that were made in that scene, but I'm glad to see that it sparked off a lot of very concerned and thoughtful conversation online, particularly in this one thread that I was reading that Elijah, he was really affected by this scene. And it was interesting to see that people who chimed in were saying, okay, but whose responsibility is it in that moment? Who is supposed to do what? What can Picard do other than watch her do this? and I don't know that we have a great answer for what else could have or should have been done, but tonally, there was something very off about that scene.
Yeah.
And Picard's a human being. And until you've lived, through being around an addict, you don't know what to do, and you learn by trial and error. And I think kind of that's a thread throughout is, in TNG, Picard was up on this pedestal. He was this high and mighty, moral, perfect man in every way. And I think now we're seeing him as a human being. Anyone that's been in a position of authority for that long, you're going to have a little bit of an ego, or a lot, that just kind of goes with, I think he's earned it. But he's a human being. It's not like he's going to make the perfect decision every time, especially being around Raffi, which again, the Hilton in the Sky generation of TNG, you didn't have addicts, you didn't have, people with vices. So this is probably something new for him. And again, going back to that scene, I guess I'm kind of hoping that kind of oddness of the music, the clapping, kind of the weird joy environment there. I'm hoping that was intentional, because I think it really kind of brings out how wrong it was.
Yeah. That's true. It's true. If that was the intent, then they succeeded, because I felt like it was all wrong. But there's a way to tell that more. I mean, one thing I thought too is, Picard's also an old man now, and there's a part of me that just is like, oh, well, he's going to miss shit. He's just going to. Excuse my language, but we become more childlike as we enter the last phase of life, and we will miss things. And there's a sweetness to him now with that, with his age that I quite enjoy, and sweetness and an innocence that comes through in his performance.
I'm glad you said that, because that was so true of my dad when I was married. And the way my dad related to him, and just could not understand, why somebody would do this to himself and to everyone around him, and that kind of the innocence that my dad has.
Right.
That's a very good point. I see that with Picard as well.
Yeah. I think in a perfect world, I would have loved to have seen, just before all the clapping and the yay, I would love it if Picard didn't miss what was happening. If we just saw him just register what he saw in Raffi, and then choose to uncomfortably or whatever, just go ahead and clap anyways, or make the best of the situation, or, as you said, not know how to deal with the alcoholic and just not deal with it, but see it. Because I think that's what happens when we're dealing with addicts. We see it, we don't know what to do, so on we go, right?
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
Hey. It'll be interesting to see how he deals with her in the future, and I'm also curious to see if he's kept in touch with the Troys over the years. So that'll be interesting to see as well.
We will see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Rhea, thank you so much for calling. By the way, people who are watching, they won't be able to see the Zoom name that you've chosen for yourself, but indeed you are the Pack-led Pajama Party.
Yeah.
So
this is cosplay, right? This isn't how I actually look. It's all right.
Pack-led Pajama Party. I love it. Yeah. Rhea, thank you so much for calling in. As always, we hope to see you again soon, okay?
You will. Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Bye. Take care. Hey, I am so happy about this. Not only Barry, because that's who was listening, but it's Barry and Beth joining us right now.
Amazing.
And I believe both in uniform. Let's check in with Barry and Beth.
Yeah, John Cooley actually paid us.
Cooley,
as he often does.
Yeah. So, and by the way, I hope you noticed the special magic that Earl was able to do in terms of patching both me and Beth in on separate feeds.
God, that's so impressive. I mean, technologically, that's
I'm actually calling in from our mission log viewing atrium, which I assume that everyone has. You should see just to my right all of our library of reel-to-reel mission log tapes.
Yeah, okay.
And on the left, we've got some marble, full-sized statues of John and Ken.
Nice.
The norm is coming on Tuesday.
Oh, good. Wow, that was fast.
I'm just in the living room.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean,
Hey,
you can hardly see the division, the way he's got you guys together.
At first, I was like, God, this is an interesting room, but now I get it.
Yeah.
Rekha, you can see your picture.
I know. I was just going to say, wait a second. That's me with the two of you.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
CLB last year.
John, I don't know if I mentioned, but the marbles are classical nudes, which is
Stop!
Stop! We can't see that far.
Icky.
Hey, look, I was just proud to pose for the artist, and you know.
You were so patient. You were patient.
I was. Sometimes you need to have your ego stroked, and we'll leave it at that. Okay.
Yep. Leave it at that.
Guys, well, I'm super impressed. I'd always heard about your mission log tribute room, and I didn't believe it for a moment. I mean, the statue had to go somewhere.
Yeah.
But I'm super impressed.
Took a while to get it ready.
Thanks for sharing that.
We'd love to show you, but the screen is attached. I mean, the mic, the camera is attached.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, are you guys in? You're not in. You're just in separate parts of the house. You're not in.
Yeah, Beth is in the West Wing. Beth,
got it. Okay.
You have Beth. Is she on right now too?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
She is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on, Barry.
Well, I can hear.
Yeah, Yeah, it's a little bit of a delay for you, maybe, because you're so far away. Guys,
the radiation takes a while to move through the room.
It does. It does, right?
It's science.
That was a good segue back to the episode. I do have to say, he gets props for that, right?
Yeah.
Tell us what your thoughts are about the episode, guys.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I wanted to, I guess, add a little bit on to what Rhea said, because everybody's been talking about Picard and who he is now. And the one thing that I end up thinking about a lot, and I don't know if it's been brought up before, is just one of my favorite episodes from Next Generation is after he's recovered from the Borg and everything, and he goes home to his family's house, and he has that crazy fist fight with his brother in the grape field, where he ends up just completely emotionally going to pieces, and he's crying because he says, I hold myself to this high standard all the time. And I thought if I was in this situation, I would be able to have control. I'd be able to do this, and I couldn't do it. And one of the things I'm finding really fascinating about watching this last episode is this notion, this theme of perfect being the enemy of the good that he brought up a couple of times. And I keep thinking about him and thinking about, that was his whole persona. You said it, he was Mr. Perfect in Next Generation, but he held himself to that. And in a way, it meant he held the people around him to that standard. And he didn't allow himself, that personal space until he was forced into it. And he ended up being a complete emotional mess on the ground and everything. And I do wonder, when I got back to seeing him in this, I just found him fascinating. Everybody is so angry at him, and they're angry at him because they also held him to that perfect ideal, and he fell off by trying, he drew his line and said, you people aren't perfect, I'm taking my toys and going home. And that seems to me like one of the more interesting things about his character. It's both, I think, a real strength in him that he tries to do that, but it's occasionally a real weakness too. And so I found the fact where he is very believable. Starfleet let him down, and he did the same thing. He couldn't accept himself letting himself down. How is he going to accept Starfleet letting him down? So, but he's learning, this notion of perfect maybe being the enemy, of being good. And it seems like it's already starting to change him. He hasn't learned how, as far as I can tell, to even reach out emotionally to the people around him. I mean, the only way he was able to do it with his brother was by getting into a fist fight, Yeah.
Interesting. In the chat right now, Tomas says, on point, Beth. So, yes. And then Paul had chimed in saying they are all perfectly imperfect. And I think you have really crystallized this idea of this theme in this entire season of the show. You know, obviously we heard Bruce Maddox talking about it which I thought was such a great scene of him replicating ingredients to then make a thing, to be able to bake something because it would be imperfect.
Yeah.
And then that's what he says about Soji and Daj right before he's killed by Agnes. But he says, I wish you could have seen that they were perfectly imperfect. And that is truly like the humanizing factor of all of this, and especially for Picard.
Yeah, especially. I mean, I think it is so fascinating that, if you'd imagined him 30 years in the future, you never would have imagined. I mean, somebody who would have been in the position he's at. It's there too when he says, I tendered my resignation, and he's shocked that they accept it. And I don't think it's just because he's arrogant. I think it's also just because he really does have those high ideals and he respects them and thinks that that's where everybody else is at. But he doesn't know, he doesn't realize that life does get in the way. People aren't perfect. His thing with clapping for Rafi. I mean, in some ways, I really kind of enjoyed that because I felt like that was a perfect showing of like how he's still kind of missing the point. He's clapping because she did the right thing. She did it so beautifully, and she put on this great performance and she pulled herself up to like meet that moment and everything. And then she fell apart at the end, and he didn't expect it because that's not him, even though it's happened to him, Yeah. So it is that notion of the perfect getting in the way of the good, and the fact that you cut yourself off from the good by demanding the perfect all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Barry, I know that you're on delay, so if that went up to the satellite and then back to your room, if you caught all of that, do you have any follow-up comment?
She was cutting out on a lot of what that was.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It happens. I mean, there's just multiple upstream, multiple downstream.
So, can I just say something that's a little self-serving?
I would never take that away from you. Yeah.
Thanks. Since I normally listen to this podcast on my drive into work, if I may say something to myself, Betty, don't miss exit 105. It's coming up really soon. If you don't get the exit, you're going to have to drive all the way around campus, and you don't want to do that, laddie. Thank you.
What universe are you from?
That's really gonna.
What I want to know is how you are going to time the watching of the episode to this moment. So you're at the exit.
He's a scientist, right?
Yeah, Barry's a man of science.
It's currently 7:52.
Yeah.
So we're at the last 8 minutes of the episode. I'll let you figure out the rest.
All right. So we'll finish up because there are other people. But one thing I did want to say is that, as I've been getting more mature as we go around the sun many times, I really appreciate the fact that on this show, women are not supposed to necessarily be attractive just if they're terribly young. Like the Vulcan or the Romulan brother-sister Lannister pair,
Right, yes.
There's so much eye roll happening over here every time.
Yeah.
Okay, I know she's damaged, but Raffi is so just fantastic. She's beautiful. She's capable. Laris, very attractive. I think she's great.
Are you done yet?
A little bit more.
Deactivate emergency husband hologram. Oh my God! Don't you wish you had one of those?
Well, I guess we can only
ask you one last question.
Is it just me? I'll look for in my next husband.
I pick them. So is it just me, or did they write in a joke for Rios when he was trying to remember 7 of 9's name, and he mentioned both 99 as in Get Smart, and 11 as in
I think
Stranger
so.
Things.
I
thought that
wondered
was
about
fab.
that. Yeah, I hope so. Too cool.
Definitely.
Beth,
All
thank
right,
you so.
reactivate husband.
Oh, well, you didn't have
Please
to.
state the nature of the husband emergency.
Kiss right here. There we go.
Oh,
It is the same room.
Beth, Barry, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you both.
Love to you both, and we'll hopefully call in again soon. But we'll see you in August. All right.
Take care. Absolutely.
All right.
I'm so gullible.
Take care, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Thanks, Rekha.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that was the most fun thing ever.
They were in the same room. The whole thing was a ruse. Did you buy it? Am I the only dork who bought it?
I didn't buy it for a second, but it was brilliant.
God. You see, I always say, this is how I get paid. This is my job, to believe anything that's on paper.
Sure.
You are a robot. Cool.
Yeah.
You are a lizard. Cool. I'll believe it.
Oh man, when you get a script,
We're in two separate rims.
So when you got those scripts for Galactica and then you're a Cylon, I would hope that your impetus would just be to do like 1950s robot, like I am a robot, I am a Cylon, I am here to kill humanity. And they're like, no, Rekha, tone that down.
It's like you were right there when we were shooting, because that's exactly what happened.
That's how I would do it. I mean, sorry guys, I give it away too much.
Listen, speaking of which, this, all of this discovering that you're a robot stuff really takes me back to when I discovered I was a robot.
Right?
It was a lot. It was some heavy stuff.
Is it hit a little too close to home for you there?
It was a little trauma.
I know we've got Martin waiting, but you didn't know that when you started, did you?
No.
Okay. I mean, I would assume that they would keep it from you just so they get a natural character building performance out of you before then they reveal it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were making it up as they went along too. They didn't know who was going to be what. So
I would love to talk to Issa sometime. I think I'm saying that correctly, who plays Soji on this show, because you would have to reveal that early, obviously. And I'm so curious about just building a character who has a false backstory. That's, I think that'd be very interesting to do as an actor. Hey, let's talk to Martin, I believe, who is our last caller of the night. Martin, welcome to the show.
How you doing today?
Doing very well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm enjoying the show. I really like the character Eleanor. I think he's awesome.
Yeah.
Nah.
He is the unintended or maybe intended comic relief, and definitely. I think he is awesome. I think my favorite line of his, that moment when they arrive at Stardust City, everybody gets the perfectly directed ad except for him. Just, what a great moment. So good. What else you got for us? Yeah.
Well, I've been watching Star Trek Next Generation again, and I can see the character of Picard, how confident he was on the show, and how very, he's very distant, even from the crew the first 7 years on the show. It's like he was kind of distant. I like the way he kind of mellowed out a little bit. I think he, like this person said before, he lost faith in the Federation, so he went back to his planet, and it kind of mellowed him out a little bit. I kind of like that a little bit. I kind of like that he's starting to find his own footing again, and he kind of I never picture Picard ever hugging anybody. So we saw him hug Hugh. Now we're gonna see him hug Riker and him. You can tell he kind of mellowed out. A lot of fans don't like that, but I kind of like that about the character.
Well, I think I'm glad that you like it. I do too. I think the difficulty is this. On Next Gen for 7 seasons, 45 minutes at a time, we get Picard at work. That's it. And what Beth just said in the last call that she mentioned one of my favorite episodes, Family, you get to see him break down. You get to see him being in that uncomfortable position of, all right, you're at home, you're with family. They actually know who you are. You're not just the guy at work who gets to give orders anymore. And as much as somebody might be married to the job, still a real person in there. And in Picard's position, particularly difficult to let that real person out. And I think what's so brilliant about this show, just, regardless of whatever plot point we want to fixate on, regardless of the other character choices we might want to fixate on, to me, there's something so satisfying about seeing Picard age and seeing those layers taken away. Where has he been for 13 years? What's he been up to? And what has this done to a person who's trying to find his place after the thing that gave him meaning and gave him identity is gone?
If I may, John.
Wait, go ahead, Rekha. Hold on to that thought, Martin.
I was just going to say, I feel like just to bring it back to the episode itself, one of the things that I wrote down actually in my notes was this. I think there's a very strong theme in this episode about both memory of ourselves and past conceptions of other people. You have Soji with her personal struggle, and then you have Picard with his struggle and how he sees the Borg. So there's all this memory in the past versus who one truly is right now. And that is the only thing that matters. And that so much of our getting tripped up about things is not about who we are right now. And we saw Picard discover, all that stuff, all that fear that he's walking around with about the Borg and about the artifact. Well, it's not what's happening there right now. There's actually something great happening there. Now, there might be other things happening there too. We'll come to see that as it goes. But I think that's a beautiful thing to look at. Who are you truly? Yeah. And Soji's about to discover that she's amazing.
Hey, I have some terrible news. We have a comment in the chat that just called it out. David says, "Oh, wow, John and Rekha, this one needs to be a 90-minute show. Sad we are so close." To 2,000 hours. And then Earl said he's trying to activate the emergency podcast extension hologram, but such a thing does not exist. Martin, thank you so much for calling in and wrapping up the show with us.
Hey, sir, I got one more thing to say. I got a theory.
Yeah, okay. All right, lay it on us real quick.
Okay, I think the Romulans I think the Vulcans created the Romulans. I think that's why the Romulans, a secret group, hates the synthetics. I think the Romulans are synthetic. And I think the Soji is the daughter of the Borg Queen and Data.
Whoa. All right. Look, stay tuned. 4 more episodes. Rekha's mind just blown. My mind blown. You got to check back with us and see how this plays out, okay?
Take care, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Enjoy your show.
Take care. Thank you so much. All right. Earl, Rekha, thank you so much. We just got to take care of the business and then we're gone for the week. All right. Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Executive producer, Rod Roddenberry. Technical production on Mission Log Live is by the greatest hologram, Earl Green. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from the Roddenberry Podcast Network. If you'd like to support Mission Log directly, give us a look at patreon.com/missionlog. Thank you to everyone who joined us live or later. We will talk to you next week.